Council President Suzanne Souter. Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt. Councilperson Brian Mattaway. Also present, Mayor Valerie Leary, City Administrator Antonina Cantillo, City Treasurer James Wishman, Chief of Police Richard McCabe, Building Official Jeffrey Bergstrom, City Solicitor Max Walton, and City Planner Chris Rogers.
Okay, the first item is the minutes from the February 13th public hearing. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Council President,
Okay,
respect to page 9 of the minutes from March 12th.
okay, wait, we're still on February 13th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll come to that one in a moment. Any corrections to February 13th public hearing? Okay, is there a motion to the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Approved. And now we'll go to the minutes of our last regular meeting on March 12th. That way you have a correction.
Yes, thank you, Council President. In respect to the City Council regular meeting dated March 12th, 2024, on page 9, under the category of a motion to approve ordinance 543, respect to marijuana, third paragraph, second sentence, it says, in reference to Council Mattaway, he expresses opinion that was crafted is fair. That was not my submission. I indicated that some components of the law seem fair, specifically in respect to the decriminalization of marijuana. But as written, I enumerated extensively that I do not believe that the law is a good law and is badly written.
Now you're referring to the Delaware law, not to our ordinance, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So how would you like this to be corrected? Because I think it also needs to be made clear that your critique is of the Delaware law, not our ordinance.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Walton, are we permitted to just let him email Ms. Fury the corrections, or do we have to vote on the wording tonight?
You postpone a vote until you email the correction, you work it out, it's gotta be, just move it to you, right?
Do you want to do it that way? The correction.
Yeah, I actually would.
Or could you- So if we strike that sentence, then you think it's inaccurate, so okay, so you're making a motion to strike that, do we have to do motion? All right, motion to strike that sentence, is there a second? All in favor? Okay, so we will strike that.
Motion to approve the minutes. That's right.
Yeah, this is a minor correction, on the next page, page 10. The next to the last paragraph that begins during discussion of strategy, it kind of ends with an incomplete sentence, and I think perhaps the word "of" doesn't belong, and then we could put a period after details, because it says, council will discuss the details of the information to be included in the annual reports, and Councilperson Mattaway will work with board and commission chairs to work out the details. And then it says "of."
Probably reporting.
Yeah, I'm sure. So if we, I move that we write the word "of" and put a period after details.
Second.
Any other? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So any other corrections to the minute? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as correct?
Motion approved.
Second, all in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Wiseman.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we're no, sorry, we do the staff reports beginning with the treasurer's report. Mr. Wiseman.
That's right. All right. Very briefly, since I just recently came on as treasurer, I went back and I looked at the city budget and saw some things I wanted just to mention. And then also the current treasurer's report was prepared for me. I wanted to tie that in. The city budget ends June 30th. So right now with March 30th, March 31st, we're 3/4 of the way through the year, 9 months. So as of March 31st, our total budgeted revenues, $5,704,000. And we've collected substantially all of that. There's a few entries that have to be made with some inner funds, but for the most part, we've collected our $5 million for the current fiscal year. On the other side of the ledger, the expenses, if you think of the expenses as being fairly constant month to month to month, we've put out about $4,500,000, which is approximately 75% of the expenses we've incurred. So the budget's on target, and I don't expect that based on the types of revenues we have, that we're going to have a lot more revenues. There's going to be some interfund. So I just wanted to mention that at this point in time, we've collected all of our revenues and our expenses are right on target for what they're incurred for. With that said, we have a fund of cash accounts at the end of March of $11,714,000. And that's made up of unrestricted funds of $9,491,000 and the $2,223,000 difference are restricted funds. So you can see that we're financially healthy. We've got enough cash if we have a severe problem to survive without any raising of revenues. So that's pretty much my report that we're in
All right.
good stead.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to R?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Staff reports, I'm very pleased to say that this is probably my last administrative report. City administrators, I'll get to it in a moment, but these are the items that I have. The paving, if you've driven out this at Delaware Street, you've noticed probably that the paving at the intersection at 6th and Delaware is complete. Another thing that I want to mention is we've been talking about our project with students at the University of Delaware to add more information about pending building projects in the city to the website, and that continues. They've nearly completed the design, and we're giving them the data from the various projects to load. This will include things like minutes from relevant meetings, various reports, site plans, etc. So their semester ends in a few weeks, in early May. So we hope to have this completed by then. And once it is, we'll let you know, and then you can go check it out.
I have a question on that matter. Are they creating like a procedure for our staff to be able to keep it up to
Yeah,
date?
part of the arrangement is that they would create a manual, they would conduct training for the staff, and they would create a manual for the staff. And last month, when we were discussing the parking ordinance, Mr. Zabaka asked if our two large apartment complexes, the larger ones, the Garrison and Beamer's Landing, would provide data about the number of residents that they each had and the number of registered vehicles if they kept such data. Now, it turns out they are not required to collect this data, nor are they required to give it to us, but I figured I'd ask. Unfortunately, answer, so I don't have any figures to give you, but I did want you to know that I tried. An important one that people need to pay attention to is street sweeping resumes next month for the summer and into the fall. If each neighborhood has or each block has a particular day that it's going to be clean, it's once a month. We're in the process, our public works department is in the process of putting up signs to tell you what day is, the third Wednesday or the fourth Thursday, or whichever is your day, your neighborhood to be clean. We're hoping that people will cooperate by moving their cars at that time. So there are two reasons for the street sweeping. Number one, it makes the city look better to keep it clean. And secondly, if we clean up that stuff, it doesn't wash into the storm drains and clog them up, or potentially get into the river. And it's part of our what we're required to do through DENREC to help to keep things out of the river that don't belong there. So pay attention when the signs are going up. They're not all up yet. Public Works is still in process. And we appreciate everyone's cooperation. You all know that our former code enforcement officer retired. The position's been advertised. We've received some applications, and Ms. Tantillo will be talking about that in a moment. Speaking of her, I'm pleased to introduce Antonina Tantillo, who is our new city administrator. Please. After 4 years with the town of Townsend, she has a master's degree in public administration from the University of Delaware, where she also earned her bachelor's degree in public policy and political science. As part of her graduate study, she was a local government management fellow in the towns of Milton and Fenwick Island. She also served as an urban policy fellow for the Wilmington City Council. In addition to this experience in local government, Ms. Tantillo also worked with various nonprofits such as Catholic Charities and Trust Center for Theological Studies and the Center for Community Research and Service. Ms. Tantillo is originally from New York, but she spent a good part of her growing up years in Kent County, Delaware. So this is the beginning of her 3rd week with us, and we're very pleased to have her, and she has some things to report.
Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to working with each of you. I've been busy these past couple of weeks meeting with council, a lot of the stakeholders in our community. I do have a couple of quick updates. Number one is that Delmarva is continuing their project and the final phase of their project for the gas main renewals, and this will continue on 3rd and 4th Streets. In the future, likely in the fall, residents whose gas mains were renewed will be contacted as they reach out to determine which screens you would like to cover these gas mains. We are also entering into, so staff and council will be working on that, and their workshops will be held to subject. And finally, as President Souter alluded to, we are working on hiring for our code enforcement officer. We've received numerous applications and have gone to the first rounds of interviews, and I'll be completing 2nd round of interviews that's coming into next week. That is my report.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just add to the Delmarva report that since my street is one of the ones in the new phase, we had our appointment with them today. So they come once, very briefly, like 15 minutes, they look at your house, where's your gas meter? You know, how close are you to the neighbors? Where can we put this external emergency shut off that's required? So they were very pleasant, light, they arrived when they said they were going to, and they explained the whole process to us and what to expect going forward. So others should expect the same.
Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you, Antonina. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you, the council president. I just want to bring up the issue of respect to Delmarva, because I've heard it at the planning commission meeting and a couple other ancillary city subgroup meetings, but then also throughout town. And there is a concern from some residents in respect to Delmarva and their professionalism, customer service aspects, and in respect to the placement of this box material, et cetera. So we can re-engage them to make sure they're working and partnering with residents, and I think that would be beneficial. And I'm sure there may be some residents in the crowd who could speak to some personal experiences, and I certainly am willing to get some of that feedback and share it. That is something that I appreciate.
Well, also the man, there were 2 people there, the man who's sort of coordinating everything, and then the actual person from Delmarva who will be doing the installation. And the gentleman who's the coordinator said that he had gotten an extensive email with a list of questions from a member of the planning commission, and he had provided the answers to those questions. So hopefully we can get the information out there. The thing about the shields, I think maybe didn't get out as well as it should have in the earlier phases of the process. And I told you that. So I'm hoping that they'll deal with everybody together at the end in terms of that.
I did meet Nancy to talk about making sure that we are ensuring communication, and I'll ensure that they communicate with our office and that we share that through our website so that residents are informed of when they'll. And if anyone has concerns about unprofessionalism, reach out to me and we'll make sure that.
So and I did meet with the city administrator on Friday, and the one point that I brought up with, in addition to some of what Brian brought up, was, it doesn't seem like there's, that we're clear on the process that Delmarva has to take, whether they go through hack, whether it's level 1, and I just want to make sure that that gets clarified. Please.
Ms. Bergstrom, did you have anything to report?
Nothing other than the report.
Okay, thank you. And Chief McCabe.
Brief, certainly less brief than last meeting. I did want to touch base with, on Council President's comments on the street sweeping. I did get some questions from council about, some language concerns with the signs. So, before, and there was concern over enforcement. Before we even consider enforcement action, we are going to wait till all the signs are installed. Then we're going to do an evaluation to make sure that they're properly placed, the language is enforceable. And then there'll be, and I'll leave this up to council, there'll be a warning period, be 30 to 60 days, whatever you're comfortable with. We started this back before COVID, and the warning was basically a letter that we had copied that outlined what the statute was that covered any parking violations. It's basically park for signs prohibited. And then we told them basically, you've got 30 days. This is something you probably want to get used to doing. So we're more than willing to do that again, give people a chance to get used to this, because it is a big change. So wanted to address that. I wanted to follow up this request again. I have a request from them to get some more information about specific statistics related to apartment complaints. So I made the request. I didn't follow up, but I had a note to check back with you so that you didn't think that we weren't still looking into that. I want to take a minute to publicly acknowledge and thank Chief Mayansky and his fire department for stepping up. As you know, for years, we've worked with DelDOT to try to address the flooding on Route 9. When I say address for us, it's just a matter of getting the road closed in time before cars get stuck, and then the fire department makes the response. And it's been challenging because DelDOT, they handle a lot of roads that we have to close. So we recently were able to obtain a trailer with a significant amount of equipment that it gives us the ability to close the road. We ran into some logistical issues getting that done. So right prior to giving it back, the fire department stepped up, and we're working together to do this. In some cases, they may advance the stage some of this equipment. They can pull the barricades through and close the I know there's been some question about why are we doing this for a state maintained road, and I recognize some level of the question, but the reality is these are our residents that are affected by this flooding. And if we don't get these roads closed back, then they've been closed, then we run the risk of people getting stuck, and it's seriously hurting this water. The Route 9 water was really high last time out. I mean, I think we had to close for close to 3 or 4 days. So, and the sorry cut off water is also very dangerous. So it benefits everybody. It keeps the fire department. I think there was one time in the last few years they made 9 or 10 rescues in about a 4 or 5 hour period. So it makes sense that we do this, and since we work well together, we've got no issues. I was also given a question about how many times have we closed Route 9 in the last year. So starting from April of 23 to April of 24, Route 9 has been closed 9 times. Of those 9 times, we've had to close very cut off 3. I can tell you that in my 20s, whatever many years now experience, that's probably the most I've closed in a year. ever, and 9 in 1 year. I could probably say the first 10 years of my career, we closed 9 times, so we're definitely seeing some issues. We addressed this with our new city administrator, and we're talking about maybe some advanced warning option that Delta hopefully would help fund with some of a trigger at the low points that would activate signs in the outreach areas. 9 Hamburg, 9 Federal, 9 Morris, 170, 173, 141. Signs that light up that say road closed, high, due to flooding. So we're looking at those options that at least to be able to manage the flood. And then the only other significant incident that we dealt with this month that I thought was newsworthy was we worked with multiple agencies in Newcastle County to deal with a growing concern with speed exhibition and these unsanctioned car meets. Hundreds and hundreds of folks go to these things. They race their cars. They've got unregistered OAD. Several months ago, there was one that started actually in our jurisdiction. We chased them out. About an hour later, they were somewhere else. It was a shooting that led to a homicide. So this isn't, these aren't fun. These are dangerous folks. And we're doing our best to kind of work with other agencies. We worked recently, I think it was the first week in March, with multiple agencies, and our officers helped, all funded by Prime funds. And our officers made an arrest of a car going 105 miles an hour with a child in it. I know other agencies made multiple arrests that led to gun possession charges and drug charges. So again, when we see these things stand up, the absolute best thing to do is to call 911. If you use the word unsanctioned car meet, they'll know exactly what it means. But if you could just say it's a large group of cars that are acting disorder, that will trigger a pretty significant response. So we obviously welcome any help we can get from the public. That's all I have.
Chief, can I just ask one quick question? Sorry. Thank you for pulling the numbers for the closures in the last 12 months. Do you know any idea how we compare the rest of the state to some of the other flooding towns? And then how would we go about trying to get that information? Just so as we're talking to Delta about prioritizing some of these projects, so we can voice our concern about this is the, where we stand now. This is some of the reasons why we're, trying to urge for these changes.
So I think if I were to reach out to PNC, I could probably get a number. They could probably, I'm sure they have that.
And that wouldn't be a out of order request for you to make?
No.
I'm sure that would be great.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, especially since, they were willing, I think they recognized that we may be an anomaly. They were so willing to give us supply, so I'm totally speculating, but yeah, I'd be glad.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great. Thank you.
And then, and I know I actually talked to the city administrator about this as well. I think she's got the same contacts that we have with engineers with Delta. I think we could probably reach out and say, hey. Thank you.
Had you ever closed Ferry Meadow before? Other than that hurricane or something?
Floyd in 1998.
It just seems like it happens a lot more. I know we've had a lot of rain, but it does seem like it really doesn't ever completely dry out or thaw
Yeah.
out.
No, there was a long stretch where we didn't have to do that. So this year was 3 years. I think we did one maybe last year.
So thanks again for your efforts and efforts of the Goodwill Fire Company to keep everyone safe. And thank you for tracking them, because that's good data that we can use to leverage to tell our story. But at the same time, it's a complete story, because those are 9 times, 3 times the roads have been closed, but there's other times in which the water has been saturated and just didn't close it because it didn't reach certain levels. So this definitely is an issue that we as a collective city have to monitor and work towards a resolution on. Then secondly, I would like to say thank you to you and to your operations chief and sergeant, community members. We had a resident who reached out specifically around 6th Street and 6th Street, and people going through the stop signs, not obeying, traffic laws, and people feeling unsafe. And I want you to know that you have a chief who heard that feedback, who responded to that feedback, who put people on the case, and they immediately took some action. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to say publicly, thank you.
Council communications, Mr. Beck?
Just a few things. I did meet with the contractor on Friday morning, senior center, to discuss the installation of the AV equipment. Bobby Thatcher, representing the senior center, was also here. We need to get some electrical work done here so that we can have the equipment installed. But we are moving forward on that. As I said earlier, I met with the new city administrator on Friday. We had a great meeting, just kind of get to know each other and talk about issues within the city. The Old Newcastle Litter Crew had another event this past Sunday from 3 to 5. We had 17 volunteers. We collected 11 bags of trash and multiple tires and other debris. So we worked on Wilmington Road and we worked on Glebe Lane. Big success. Our volunteer numbers were down, but we were competing with the women's basketball final, so I can understand. The only other thing I'll say is the chief brought up the issues, and I think in the next couple meetings, I'm gonna look for an ordinance to push Del Dot to fund the 2 intersections in our transportation plan, which would be 7th and Washington and 6th and Chestnut. But I think we also need to follow up, and I appreciate the mayor followed up before with the plans for Route 9 south of Dobbinsville. We've been hearing that they were, want to do an experimental new material on that, but I haven't heard anything, and follow up with that. And again, the ferry cutoff seems to be flooding more. Doesn't sound like that there's a long-term solution for that, so I do think that we need to address those issues. Again, I'll be following up for an ordinance to our state senator. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Beck?
Just quick on the dog park, for the design, we get feedback from legal, so we need to review that. Once we get that done, we'll hope to hopefully get that out for an RFP in the near future.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for mentioning, flooding in different zones of our community. I agree it's time for some action. And I would also say it's time for a unified letter to be written by people, administration and or council to our representatives in Dover on this particular issue. Since the last council meeting, I've had the pleasure of participating in a career day at George Reed Middle School. Also attended the March Delaware League of Local Governments in Dover on behalf of the city with the mayor, council president, Chief McCabe, and our new city administrator. And unexpectedly, while at the meeting, it was a very informative meeting. I had several people who came up to me, from other different cities and municipalities, who said, "You all in the city of Newcastle have a great representative in respect to Chief McCabe. You all have a great new city administrator in respect to Antonina." And I was kind of taken back by it, but also was very excited and happy to hear that. So, fellow residents, I want you to know that the professionals that we have working with us on a day-to-day basis are not just respected here locally, but they are respected throughout the state. And that's something that we should be happy about, because every municipality can't say that. In respect to, there's some upcoming community-centric events that I would like to highlight. April the 20th, the Sailing Club is doing a beach cleanup. Friday, April the 26th, there's a student art showcase at the William Penn High School from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Friday, the Penn Bistro Cafe will be open that evening. Saturday, The student art showcase at William Penn High School will go from 10 a.m. to noon. Saturday, May the 4th, Friday, May the 3rd, and Saturday, May the 4th, we have our May Market. This is a great community event that's been going on for generations. Please come out, show support. Volunteers are needed. Saturday, May the 4th, there is a free children's tennis clinic here at the tennis courts across the street. Ages 5 and up, no racket or experiences required. Saturday being the 1st, the city, in combination with the Goodwill Fire Company and anybody and everybody will be doing a blood drive from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. With the Delaware Blood Bank of Delmarva. And then finally, I would like to acknowledge the life, the work, and death of two giants in our community. Mr. Ed Honicki, who was raised in this community, who chose to stay and work here for many years on the fire department. And then finally, Mr. Pachak. He stood out for many reasons, because of his stature, because of his heart, and for being a lion's lion here in the city of Newcastle. I'd like to commend Ms. Joan Pachak for the love and support and strength that she showed in support of her husband during his extensive illness. Our prayers and thoughts are with you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Isaac.
Good evening, everybody. I did say in last meeting I wouldn't be here due to set observation of Eid, but actually due to solar eclipse. Most people were able to observe yesterday. The sighting of moon wasn't possible until tonight, so the Eid has been moved one day for tomorrow. So I'm here. I wanted to thank everybody for organizing Easter festivities on Saturday and Sunday. I know we had several egg hunts and contests. I wasn't able to attend City of Newcastle. I was with my American mom and, at their church enjoying stuff with our kiddos. So we decided to be there instead. It's always kind of torn apart when you got something going on in Newcastle versus, trying to hang out with family too, especially on holidays. And thank you, Joe, for bringing up the DELDAT resolution. I think it's absolutely timely and needed. I know you were waiting until Antonina joins or somebody as a city admin for that to happen so that we can do this. I want to just mention that on coming up Monday, I believe a planning chair, mayor, myself, city administrator, police chief are meeting with DELDAT. We just found out about this DELDAT study that was conducted for the 427 West 7th Street complex that got a basically rating D, and we were just confused. How is that, and then DELDAT was saying that was okay, and I was just like, everybody in the room was like, what do you mean that's it's okay? D doesn't sound okay. And the traffic numbers when we got the report were actually from September of 2021. So I was questioning numbers due to being still state of emergency, people working from home at a higher rate at the time due to pandemic. So I was so we're going to see if DELDAT can revise the study with newer numbers to see whether delay numbers, due to traffic and all the other aspects that they go into traffic study. So, and hopefully we learned something in a Monday meeting that was maybe overlooked, but anyways, just something that we can share more next meeting. I have mentioned I would look at census data in last meeting, so I'm just going to share briefly that I have looked at 15 years worth of data since 2010, basically, and I was helping provide some numbers for some of the grants that went out for playground in the town, which basically showed that children population ages of 0 to 17, we had about 1,250 kids, something like that, in a whole city based on 2010 census, and that number was about the same, 1254 in 2022 census, and then total population in 2022 was 7,187. So I know that we've been throwing around 5,500 number around So I thought it would be good that we start updating that number across website and where else we use that to 7187 for the time being until we get a new census in. I did conduct this analysis on my own, and I used the smallest census geographical unit. I'm so sorry, guys, for boring you guys with this, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands this. This was narrowed down to only those neighborhoods belonging to Newcastle. So this is comparative data and only includes all those neighborhoods that are part of our city. So it wasn't, if I was able to break down by census, block group, which is the smallest unit there. And I think that's all I have for you guys. And if I forgot something, I'll mention next time. Thank you.
Mr. President, there's one other thing, I apologize. This past Saturday, I had the joy of attending, the opening day for the, Newcastle Little League. It was a little cold, that day, but the kids were excited, the families were there and present. And I just want to encourage everybody in our community, now that the weather's starting to break, to take a trip up to the Little League. Whether or not you have a child or grandchild or know anyone there, your presence in the eyes of the children mean a lot. And you'll have some fun, and they probably harken back to the days when you were a kid. So thank you.
And if I just can add to mine, to anybody who is observing, I'll have to eat you guys tomorrow. So that's all for me. Thanks.
Okay, business from Renee.
Today was one of our first beautiful days. But I hope people were able to get outside. We've been overly blessed with an abundance of April showers. Little depressing sometimes on those dark dreary days, but April showers, we've heard it bring May, March, and then that also means May market, which was so person that way. So I'd like to recognize our softball and the ever particular May market that will open Friday, May 3rd at 10 a.m. And then it will close on Saturday, 3 p.m. If you've experienced May market before, you know things sell. If you can't get there on Friday, then go in your stead, if you want, because by Saturday, it may not be there. That's the way the great event is. And with that said, this is the appropriate place to read the Arbor Day proclamation, since we're talking about greens and plants. So this is the Arbor Day proclamation commemorating the anniversary of Arbor Day and proclaiming April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Newcastle. Whereas 1872, at the suggestion of J. Sterling Morton, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed on April 1872 with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing emission of a precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our home, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy. Now, city of Newcastle, Delaware, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Newcastle, Delaware. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support the effort to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this future generation. And with that goes thanks to our tree commission, who plants trees everywhere. And we have to give them kudos to Mr. Lukowicz and his team, who often fixes and resets the brick around the trees, which is no small feat in itself. It was my pleasure to be our new city administrator, Antonia Tantillo, on her first day, as well as join her, the council president, and Council President Mataway, and the chief at the Delaware Legal Local Government later in that same week. And the Easter parade was just adorable. If you can't get out there on Sunday afternoon, you really should. The kids, from infants in arms to adults, and this next year, the mayor and council can enter as a group. This is library appreciation. And on behalf of the city council, I want to recognize Julie Kirk and her staff at the library. While the library's focus, everyone thinks of as generally books, there's so much more with their program and computer access and meeting, and it goes on. Take the time to stop in and visit. Also, I'd like to recognize the Newcastle Library friends who work to support the library through book sales and other events. On Thursday, I will be a guest at the White House for a program entitled Communities in Action, Building a Better America. Should I have the opportunity, my two primary initiatives that I'll be speaking about will be our coastal flooding and law enforcement recruitment. And I have been in contact with the chief regarding a conversation on that, so I can take points with you. However, on the same day, the Sheriff's House preview, that's the 11th, 3 to 5 p.m. Be sure that's for the residents preview, be sure to go. I will look forward to all of the pictures. The other day at work, I had someone who recognized that I was mayor here say, oh, it might be nice to have 2 incomes. I said, yeah, that $133.20 goes a long way every 2 weeks. These folks sitting at the table right here make less than that. This job is, we do it for love and service. And in the city of Newcastle, our committee, we rely heavily on Newcastle Historic Society, Arisafa, Newcastle Library of Friends, Newcastle Community Partnership, the Lions, the JC, the churches, and others key in organizing and running our event. They are all volunteers. Our commissions, planning, historic area commission, board of health, tree commission, I know I'm leaving some out. They are also staffed by volunteers. The trustees work for an year of course, slightly more than the other volunteers. Not everyone has the time and interest to volunteer. But for those who give to the city of their time and attention, we should all be very grateful. If we tried to pay only half of those people, we would have a huge budgetary issue on our hands. Sometimes conflicts of interest may be perceived if someone serves on more than one group, which is not unusual. They may serve on the Lions, the JC, the Historic Society. It's not unusual. That's going to happen in a city of our size. And we should make sure that we do not throw out accusations of somebody's making money off of something or someone's putting money in their back pocket. Because I can assure you, I'm still working as a paramedic. I don't have a new car. I don't have a second house. And probably neither do most of everybody else who does it. So keep in mind, we do this out of love and out of goodness to our city. And we should be extraordinarily grateful to each and every person. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we have a report from our outreach coordinator, Mr. Reeves.
So first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to work on this project and to contribute in this way. It was really a fascinating challenge, which is to celebrate historic Newcastle and our community, and to reach out to different communities around us, both near and far, and sort of make sure that more people appreciate and understand and enjoy and contribute to our town. So we're, and also thank you for the opportunity to present today. So we're 1 month into a 4-month project, right? Because there's only 4 months left in that contract, and we're sort of 1 month into that. So we tried to hit the ground running on March 1st, and we're also kind of decided to make it a team effort. So we didn't think we wouldn't be able to get as much done with one person. So Keith Wright and I have been working together very closely, and we're also bringing other people into the effort as well, and always open to people sort of helping contribute or coming up to us and making suggestions or working on things as well. So we really think it needs to be a team effort with lots of collaborative projects. We want to, because of that, or the kind of span in there, one of the challenges was to figure out whether to do focus on the long-term capacity building and planning and strategies, or to focus on near-term results. Let's get something done this week. Let's put something out. Let's see if we can help one of the existing events and so forth. So we thought at the end that we needed to really just balance those two things, because if we just do the long-term strategy, long-term planning and whatever, then nobody will see anything is happening, right? Nobody will see any results of that. And also we won't learn much about what's possible to happen to do in this town, what really works, what really everybody in town, what would be synergistic. So we try to balance those two things. We sort of focused in 5 key areas. And we've kind of documented everything on this. We got a little enthusiastic about developing a report, so we didn't get it in on time, but it'll be in your email. And also all the other things we mentioned in terms of strategies or meeting or whatever, we have notes on everything and so forth. We're absolutely willing to share with anybody about that. So 5 key areas, including.
So one of the first things we did was we identified groups and individuals within our town locally. We went a little further afield with other neighboring communities, and we started setting up a bunch of meetings. So we met with local organizations like the Partnership, the Historical Society, the National Park Service, and then we went a little further afield. We met with the Tall Ship Foundation. We met with the Wilmington Visitors Bureau, Delaware TV, and then we met with the new sales director at the Courtyard by Marriott.
And so we're also talking to businesses as well, and and other people in town who we think of as sort of event creators or event sponsors, or people who are really have some kind of stake in sort of getting audiences, getting people to Newcastle. So about 20 different things this month. We'll continue to go forward. And again, we have notes for those meetings, 20 or so. Then we wanted to start designing some specific strategies about how to move forward in different specific like communication strategies. We wanted a strategy for web presence. We wanted a strategy for social media. We want a strategy for distributing print assets, brochures and guides and so forth, so that we know what locations they would be in. So we've been talking to businesses about where to put, so each business has print assets on the other businesses. Each museum has assets to describe the other businesses. And then outside of town at hotels and, kind of tourist bureaus and so forth, there's also assets about Newcastle in the works. We're looking at a shared event calendar online so that each event creator organization from the library to the courthouse can put their events online, and then we could use that as a database to develop daily calendars, weekly calendars, monthly calendars, and feed those into not only our website, but potentially the other people who, kind of help publicize things happening in Newcastle. we looked at, we also sort of looked at event spaces in town and thought, well, we actually have a lot of spaces in town to do events, but it's hard to figure out what's available. You know, if you wanted to do an event, you know, is there a space for 50 people to do a class or to do a small performance or whatever? So we started to do, he's been working on this particularly, we started to do kind of a list of event venues, event spaces, the specifications on them, a profile on each of them. So if you want to do something in town, you want to create something, create some buzz, create something happening, you know, here's the start where you could, you know, and we're looking at hospitality packages. One of the conversations with Marriott, you know, with the people at Terry House is like, what if you booked a room or booked a block of rooms with your group, your wedding or your corporate event, and you could then package that with activities in town, either eating at a restaurant or going to a museum or developing some kind of event in combination with, you know, with the hospitality packages. So, and then we're looking at brand themes. So if we want to enhance the brand story, what I call the brand story, the marketing, the brand story of Newcastle, how would that enhance it? We've got historical, we got that down pat, but it'd be nice to add some family friendly stuff, add some other kind of activities, tall ships, you know, bicycling, the arts and culture, arts basically, you know, so forth. We'd like to add some kind of flesh out the story of Newcastle. Why would you want to come besides just to go to the museum, basically? Why would you want to come and stay all day, bring your family, and then, you know, and then shop and eat and sort of patronize the different spaces? So, so that's, and then we also started to collect research about tourism, or about related to tourism in the town. So we started off with some qualitative audience data, talking to people about who comes to your museum or who comes to your shop, you know, and sometimes we have a specific list, sometimes it's anecdotal, qualitative information. We started to look at audience segmentation. It's great to say, oh, we want more people in town. Well, what kind of people do, right? And what are the different groups, what I think of as visitor communities in town that do different things, right? So some people, you know, eat at restaurants, some people go to events, some people visit the park, some people visit, you know, go on tours. We were just talking to Mike Connolly, you know, and he has a specific kind of person that takes a tour, right? You know, and so that's again one type of activity in town. But what are the other communities, and what are how do they map to the other activities? And then we will also in long term we'll look for, we get really quantitative information. Why there's some tools we can get to track how many people are coming back through on what town, and where are they going, so looking at this possible. So sort of deliverables, talking about deliverables and stuff, yeah.
But because we have a very limited time frame, we wanted to really have produced something in this short. So we looked for things, deliverables that we could get out there. So we have our own website that will continue to evolve and so forth, but it's up there, it has events, it has a history of the town and so forth. We have social media accounts that, again, you know, we're adding to them as we go and learning. We have Facebook and Instagram. And as John said, we have print materials that are at the printer as we speak, and we will be distributing those to various places in town and outside of town. And so most of these deliverables are either completed or darn near completion. And then the other thing we really have wanted to focus on is to continue to develop relationships within the organizations in town. To collaborate them, to listen to their vision and how can we fit in, kind of assist them, promote their mission, promote their visions.
Right. So that's the essence of it, but there is a total wrap up in the sense that we are trying to create, what is the vision for that tourism? What do we hope for it to accomplish? You know, there's a vision for tourism, and then there's a vision for the tourism office or the outreach office. What do we want that to do? So that includes things like what kind of people do we want to come down? What kind of outreach do we want to do? How do we want to work with existing organizations? We don't want to compete with them, we want to fill in the gaps, we want to support them, we want to sort of do kind of collaborative, cross-silo collaboration. And then we also want to help build over the long-term influence, visibility, relationships with print, with media or television or whatever, so that they know they can come to Newcastle and get a story. And then again, continue to develop a brand story. So what do people, what do people think of Newcastle? Why do you think it would be exciting to come here? That's it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys first for putting this comprehensive report and presenting to us. Could we add Butlerwood School to that event rental thing? Mayor, did you say that they're available now?
Yeah, we do. Give them.
Thank you. And I don't know if there's any other facilities in the city, just to promote them as only historic towns. Yeah, so that we can potentially have other areas benefiting too. Absolutely, yeah. I invite everybody, obviously, to do so. And then about the quantitative stuff, I wanted to see if you guys can reach out to Delaware Tourism Office, because they have annual study that they do on who comes to Delaware and stuff. And I want to ask them because to get ideas, first of all, but also to see if they can segment it for us. I don't know if they can, honestly.
About that, and their response is very interesting, maybe artificial intelligence,
Oh, okay.
which is a little.
So was it cell phone there?
Yeah.
Funny, because I heard that was one of the approaches that, but it's not always accurate. But I mean, nothing is gonna be always accurate, because nobody at the entrance of the city and exit, so many people. Yeah, we're gonna have
The segmentation is interesting, because we should look at what they because that's almost like an analytical tool, right? What are the groups or the profiles? People, and I think we should look at theirs, but ours might be unique to us because it might have to do with what people do.
So, but they weren't able to share part of it for our city with us because it's.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Okay.
But this Sunday.
I hope it's trying to see what they, piggyback on what they're already paid for the, we don't have to pay for a whole study ourselves, but, before we go into, because when we were discussing this position, I was really, pro doing a study like this so that we can, know, kind of like, exactly, and.
We also are collecting, I didn't mention it, we're collecting competitive benchmarking, like against other towns like us,
That was my expert. Okay, great. Yeah, I think it will help us to put ourselves in a better position too, is if we know who's coming to our town, so we can tailor the messaging too. And I just wanted to say thank you for updating. I saw the video was updated with Fred Mayor, on the visitor page. So, doing business in Newcastle video. So I don't know when you guys did that, but, thank you. It's great.
That's great.
And thank you for holding the bike vision session. I thought it was awesome. I failed to mention that earlier. I attended, I had a great time, talking to everybody.
Yeah, we want to do those on other things like the tall strips and whatever, and get people together and come up with brainstorm about how to use that, how to use the tall strip, how they could benefit different organizations.
For clarity, when you say the website, it's from our city website, right?
Now,
Okay.
yeah, and it's part of a web presence, and we have a strategy about it, why we think that's important to have it as be a separate website,
Okay.
and also how does it link from the city website and other websites into it, basically. Because right now, the city website is, as you know, is run by the state. It's very difficult to make much changes to it. We think it's better to have a site, a page on the site that then refers you to the visitor site, and so right now it's very confusing, the navigation for visitors through the city site.
So it makes total sense. One other thing, in today's day and age, that I think would dovetail into that, perhaps you're on it, or long-term vision is, could we create a City of Newcastle app right? You know, for people's
Yeah, we
iPhones
talked
or Android,
Today about that.
something like that.
Yeah, there's one underway, with my column through the, that, so we're trying to figure out whether it makes sense to have a separate one for that one, so, yeah.
Thank you again for everything done.
I'm gonna keep you guys up, but the website, I do have just clarifying question there because council president and I have been in contact with the students at UD about potentially revamping the website in next spring. So I just wanted to kind of see if we can sync all these efforts together because the website currently is done in WordPress. And what they're doing with the new projects is also going to be in WordPress so that, staff doesn't have any issues, we can't control, state controls the design, but next spring, hopefully we can tackle that as well. But can we coordinate that new website, tourism, visitor information is kind of in a similar, environment so that, if it needs to be updated, it's also WordPress or whatever we're moving into, that it's kind of sync towards that so that these efforts are all, we're not ending up, one. Yeah, they're working right now, adding a sub page that would be presenting all the current, and pending projects in the city and, additional information for it. But we were talking about even some of the ideas for the website as you go to landing page, are you a visitor, are you, a resident, so that you can kind of be directed to the proper places. So I'm just trying to see those efforts so that, we're not, I guess out of sync for
Yeah.
I'm overusing the word. But just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just go out there, you might want to take a look at the city webpage,
Okay.
because obviously they're very geared to tourism, even more than we are.
Yeah.
But, and they have the same issue with dealing with the state as we do, but at the top of their page, they have the resident or are you a visitor? Then when you click on visitor one, of course, they're drilling down into activities, restaurants and all that stuff. And it sort of separates it, because it's a very different reason that
Very
people
different
would
reason,
visit
yeah.
the website. So, I mean, when we get into the full website redesign next year, we can do. We're already using Lewis's. As with building projects, because they do the same thing, but they have many more building projects than we do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that's been, I mean, something that we used as a template, and you might like. Meeting with when they get into the action, that won't be till next year.
Right now, the things related to tourism on the train, and we've also,
Well, those types of things could be fixed.
yeah, but long term. Like, the people are tending to move to Wix right now, for sites, but, we're open to what works, and we can always convert it over. It's.
I know what I wanted to ask last. I'm so sorry, guys. But I'm trying to think of it all together. I guess like because it's a report, right?
Yeah.
So that we're not, everything's running the same kind of stream. One of the things that Mr. Bertel was working with, the last tourism director, Sarah, yes, thank you, was a communication tool, and Antonina, this is the information, this is also relevant to you too. Basically, they were developing a system that would talk about, instead of just posting stuff on Facebook and webpage, also texting people. So like we could identify them not only about, emergencies and the bills or whatnot, like if we're talking about some of these gas stuff, right? We can prioritize that, but even potentially some of these promotions that are happening or delays on the roads and stuff. I just wanted to see if you guys can coordinate together and see where this is in process, because I was told this was kind of done deal with this testing phase. So, because it will be a great tool for the city to continue using or start using, I guess. So just
Meeting with Anthony.
Cool.
Maybe we can talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
It might do some digging, but
People want to volunteer. We have a bunch of places, organizations, because there's some way to break the form. And, so that people can check off where they're interested, what their expertise is, so we can get that off the organizations that are.
It's a great idea.
Visit Newcastle now is not on, right, guys? There's a website, Visit Newcastle.be. And it's not working yet, right?
You talk website, it's, well,
Oh, it's not, work.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yep, there it is.
Okay, thank you. You'll be happy to hear I have a very short remark tonight. I just wanted to say that with the new city administrator in place, I see us returning to something like normalcy after the upheavals we had last year. And this will be completed in some ways this Saturday when we have a trustee election. And it'll be mark the first time in, I think, 2 years that they will have a full board. Because they've had many vacancies. So I'm urging everyone to vote on Saturday. We have 3 candidates. Voting hours are at the fire hall and voting hours are from 10 to 4. It's a separate registration from your registration for city and state and federal elections. However, you can register at the polls on election day. Just take your ID with your city address. Or if you don't have that, you can take something like an MSC or Delmarva bill showing the city address. So check their website for details. I may not remember them all absolutely correctly, but I hope everybody will participate because the trust is an important part of our community. And then finally, I'll just do my usual reminder about public comments. We'll try to answer questions if there are simple ones. We cannot engage in extended discussion if the item is not on the agenda. We have Senator Goodwill.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For the members of council, the market review report should be in your packet and included. It was another steady month in peace. All volumes continue to move as we get into the summer month and getting into rescues things of that nature. Wanted to remind everybody that not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday the 20th, we're doing our large scale water supply drill in downtown Newcastle. There's going to be a mild amount of parking displacement during that time frame. We are trying to be respectful of that as much as possible. We will try to get wrapped up when our training mission is over. We'll try to get wrapped up and get out of your hair and return life to normal as soon as we can. So we are being mindful of that. Other than that, unless there's any questions from council, I have nothing more.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't write it down, but I forgot it. Also occurring on the 20th, senior firefighter EMT Drew Alton is retiring after 15 years of service to our community. 15 years in retirement sounds kind of funny. However, this is Drew's second career. Drew was a police officer for 21 years with Newcastle County Police Department, and then came to work with us afterwards. So again, Drew will be retiring, and we'll be looking to replace him within our ranks as we move forward. So if you interacted with Drew in the past, on a fire truck, on an ambulance call, in the fire station, or if you see him around before he leaves, please congratulate him on his second retirement.
Okay, public comment. We have our usual 3-minute limit, which is up have the timer, and as usual, please sign in and then state your name and address. And
Good evening, I'm Suzanne Swift. I live at 16 4th Street here in Newcastle. I am also the playground subcommittee's chair, and prior to public comments, I wanted to catch you all up to date on what's been happening since the playground was on phase 1 back in October. We are actively planning phase 2, and phase 2 is going to look pretty dramatic. It's going to have a wonderful ship theme element. It'll have an accessible ramp leading up to climbing the coast, terminating in slides. And so the kids are looking forward to the slides, and we're really looking forward to being able to provide them for them. We also are looking to put in a rubberized surface. We started out with a mulch surface, and that we figured was inexpensive, and it was good for drainage, but it's not great for accessibility. So we are looking to fundraise and to get rubberized surface there so that playground can be used by everybody. We're also looking to bring in benches and shading. So looking to augment the landscaping to keep that area as cool as possible. So in order to make all of these things happen, Encore, which started the push for the playground, became a 501c3 just recently with a lot of help from a lot of people. And I want to thank everybody who participated in getting that off the ground. Now that we have a 501c3, we are able to fundraise. And so fundraising is writing lots of grants. We will be writing grants for the Welfare Foundation. We've already written grants for Latin Q, AARP. We intend to apply for along with REI, Presley, Centene, and also apply with the city for a DENREC ORTP grant. We've applied for a grant with the trustees of the council, and we're hoping to get an urban and community forestry grant that will allow us to have a student over the summer to help us with landscaping. So many thanks to the mayor, to Brian Madaway, who wrote wonderful letters of recommendation and support, as well as members of the trustees and other people throughout the community who have been supporting this initiative. The other thing that we're looking forward to doing is to working with Antonina with our proposal for the bond bill, so that we hope to get some funding for the accessible surface coming up in this year's bond bill. A lot of work has gone in, a lot of people have contributed to it. As people have questions, please feel free to either please second Monday of every month. And I just also want to give a plug out to hoping to repair the bathrooms. This is a problem because so many of the kids and parents come through the playground, they need a bathroom, there isn't one now. So I urge City Council to work with the trustees to do whatever you can to bring them back to the playground.
I made it public months ago, that while I was a trustee, I requested the Department of Justice investigation. There have been several reasons that have proven close to the conflict of interest and to their conflict of interest statement. The latter resulted in a trustee's resignation.
Point of order, Mr. President. This is not city business. The trustee
Yes,
is. It should not.
The trustees gave $2 million.
City business we're talking about.
I beg your pardon. This, let me finish your talk. However, the trustees have refused to let us see the revised conflict of interest statement or sections 2 and 3 of the bylaw. And they have circled their wagons in order to prevent the trust beneficiary from obtaining information about their management of our assets in the following way. 1, they refuse to observe the FOIA opinion issued by the DOJ nearly 7 years ago. Why? 2, during COVID, they refused to use Zoom for their suddenly closed board meetings, though council opened theirs. After COVID, we were told the public would only be allowed to attend 4 meetings a year and open with the information system there. 4, now they declare that the public may no longer make comments or ask questions at their meeting. 5, Now, too, the weekly paper has been smearing me with lies without using my name because the editor whose office is on trust property is a coward. First, in her June, she accused me of self-serving lies and libel and claimed I attacked the trustees, quote, no. Second, in the February 14th issue of this year, he made insinuations about the motives and character of the unknown residents who were called in the DOJ. Third, the next week, he published a letter by a trustee. Fourth, on March 6th, a weekly columnist wrote in similar vein. And most recently, in the March 27 issue, a trustee White wrote that council shouldn't allow speech about the trustees to be heard at a council meeting because they have no connection with city business. So some years ago, the city received $2 million from the trustees. But if you pass such an ordinance, it would suppress the information that people in town deserve to have. I can't respond to these laws in innuendo in the weekly because Ms. Buchanan won't put anything to say or write. Therefore, the only way I have to let residents know is by speaking out at council. And take note that all these people spewing lies and misinformation about me and the DOJ's investigation are connected to or benefit from the trustees. Thank you.
We do have the right to say what we like. We do encourage people in the interest of time and consideration.
Exactly.
Limit us comments. Yes, I understand. Please continue, and this will take very.
This is something that really needed to be brought out to the public. I like what you do.
I encourage people to limit their comments to issues related to business. And who else has something they want to say?
Judy Guttenland. I'm a resident of 35 West 4th Street. I'm also a member of the last years roughly on the development of a new playground that is for safe, accessible, appropriate playground for our city, our children and their families. I'm here also speaking as a parent and a grandparent who's very grateful for phase 1 and the development of the playground so far, and to encourage the city council to work within the bill of possible years to support phase 2. In particular, the development of rubberized surface, which will make the playground totally accessible to people of all abilities, children of all abilities, which is very important. It's very important for the residents that live here. I have grandchildren that spend 2 weeks with us in Delaware every summer. They come Christmas and Thanksgiving time. They are thrilled with the new playground that we've developed. We're going to be doing more, making it bigger, better, more accessible to children of all different ages, with more attractive equipment, colorful equipment, safe equipment. And in addition, as far as extended family, it's very important to have a community appropriate playground to draw in people from outside of our town, in addition to the people in town, to support the people there. So I'm just encouraging you. I would like to see more happen and more development, and also as maybe down the road we can continue to develop all the programs within the city limits. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for what you've done so far. Thanks. Thank you.
Bill verse 130113. I guess I'll start off with, as far as the playground,
committee from its very inception. I've noticed the activity in the park, growing. I'm really grateful that, the committee has pursued and struggled to get funding to go ahead with what they've done. What I passed out to, his chief counsel and, council people is a copy of, my court docket. I was wrongfully arrested for stealing signs, 0 proof. The judge, the prosecutor, and my attorney all said that there was zero way that they were gonna proceed and try me. They turned the jury back to the jury pool and said, we're done. An hour later, my attorney was supposed to come out with the paperwork immediately. 1 hour later, he comes out and says, you know what, we got it resolved, but a certain politician on a state level, a certain politician on a local level called the prosecutor's supervisor and hounded them to try to get a no contact order in place. Judge point blank said, they have to learn to act like adults, and you are not gonna put me in the sights of Mr. Gross suing me for me restricting his First Amendment right. And you can laugh all you want, but you spewing hate, lies, misinformation all over the city. My letter last month clearly stated that there was no contact order placed against me. I write my letter, first thing, she lies again. That newspaper does not give credible information, is not something that is really, when it comes to journalistic integrity, zero integrity. Yawn, act, whatever. But I ask this council to make sure that they are not in any way an official report from our meetings. She can attend whatever she wants, but just like our council president says, I'm just taking notes and this is what I see. It's not necessarily the fact. Nothing the chief prints when it comes to city government, city anything is true. She restricts who can write rebuttals.
I'll just say that I think we've always been clear that the only official record of our meetings is the minutes. So,
People don't perceive it that way.
well, I can't help that.
Okay, and we'll see it in court.
All right, anyone? Excuse me, anyone else? Comment? All right, thank you.
People live at 725 Farmer Street. But I've been fortunate in the streets because I have a multitude supersized fire bombs connected to my roof. So I refuse to sleep there at the point. When you're pushing the houses, walking down, if I make a decision finally to contact my insurance company, they're gonna pay the house off and get me out of here because I've had enough after 100 years. My family paid it. I've had enough. So, they don't pay it off, they drop them, is what I expect. I can't do most of them, saying like, been like for a very long time. So what happened is, there's a contract. 2001, November, I called Jeffrey Bergstrom, because I work with him for the building appeal. Someone might like, no, I didn't expect about it. But that's what's going on with this house, he says, quote, you're the only one complaining, so, okay, why would I be complaining? At the moment, I have 41 years of construction, way over 80,000 out of the field. Half of that being management of some sort. I know what the hell I'm talking. You can ask your lawyer there, how many times over I'm an expert in this type of field. So, that would be by, so I come home on the 1st of January 2022, I get arrested. Ambushed. Fine, I wait 50 weeks for something amounts to, it was trespassing charge. 50 weeks is unheard of. I heard it multiple times. Two days, I'm supposed to go to court and bring all this information to the Attorney General's office, I get arrested again, which is just a public kidnapping. For 6 months, I endured threats and torture by way of not letting me work, starving to death. At the end of that, it's first attempted murder, as far as I'm concerned. And, at that point, I contacted the governor, lieutenant governor, and a few other people. Then the second murder attempt came. At that point, I mailed these in. I have read it. These went to the House, the Senate, the statewide elected officials, Newcastle County Council, Sussex County Council, Mayor Council, Wilmington, Mayor Council, Dover, Supreme Court justices, and a few other people. And basically, they were stating the fact that 300 plus them. I couldn't say anything about who's doing what to me. I believe Forbes got that same package. I believe the new member don't have it, and I was mad at Valerie. So you got your way. I went out of here. I had enough. I had no torture, torment, misery. I've lost over $500,000. My retirement's shot. All my savings is shot. My career is just destroyed basically. I had it set up in February. Did good. What tell me? So, bottom line, I'm here to tell you, my insurance don't pay for this house. I'm gonna do what it takes to make this go right. Now, you certify this thing to be built, you said it's a wonderful thing to have. You own it. He's your employee, you now own it. You should remove that thing if you kill somebody. Here's the present paying. I brought this to Max, these are your employees, would you like to have it?
Your property, do it or what you want.
So I'm just asking, they're your employees, this gives you a good idea of what the hell. Thank you. That was set back from, stuff I did later, thank you. Okay.
Any comment? Next item of business is ordinance 544. Unfortunately, we had a corrected version that was supposed to be the version linked in the posting of the agenda item, but it's the uncorrected version. So yet again, we're going to have to table this till next month. So the public has the opportunity to review the corrected version before we. So do I have a motion to table? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. And move on to ordinance 546, which is what the public hearing was about earlier, regarding the change in the building code regarding mechanical structures in buildings, new construction in the special flood hazard areas. Is there further discussion from council about this?
Does the public hearing comment that we made go in the record? We don't have to repeat them now. I have to have.
Well, there's separate minutes of the public hearing that we'll see next. What? Oh. Okay, the title of the ordinance is an ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle Code, Chapter 130 regarding building special flood hazard areas.
Your question, Councilman, there will be separate minutes, but they will all be part of the record of proceeding.
I just wanted to make sure that, our votes right now are, people know that we have discussed it somewhat while no one was here for public hearing, so that that's not lost in, that there was a little clarification made earlier, so.
I'll just summarize it for those of you who weren't here earlier, so you know what we're talking about. Most of us in Newcastle who have flood insurance have it through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They have certain ratings for communities, and the better your rating, the lower our flood insurance premiums are. And we have, as part of this, to maintain our rating, we have an annual review. And during the recent review, they found that Newcastle, along with most other towns in Delaware, no longer is in compliance with the FEMA requirements for protection of mechanical structures. That means like heat and air conditioning for buildings. Our current code says that these structures have to be at least 1 foot above freeboard, right? Flood elevation,
1.5 feet.
1.5 feet above elevation, above the flood elevation. However, there is currently an exception which allows those that mechanical structures that are waterproof to resist water intrusion may be placed below this elevation. FEMA now does not want to grant that exception. So this ordinance simply removes that exception from our code. This applies only to, number one, buildings in the, what's called the special flood hazard area, which is within the 100-year flood zone. So it's not, the majority of the city is not included in this. And it only applies to new construction. So if your house is in this area and your furnace is in the basement, as many of ours are, you don't have to move it. It's only for new construction. Did I get that all right?
Yes.
Okay. So any further discussion from council on this issue?
Yeah, I have a question,
Okay.
for Mr. Bergstrom and Solicitor, Walton. In respect to how we're deeming new construction, do we have any sites within the city right now that if this passes today would affect, quote unquote, do we have anything in the hopper?
No, nothing in the hopper. We haven't built anything in violation of this for quite some time.
Thank you.
So you're saying basically most new construction in the flood hazard area has been doing this anyway.
Most
We're just formalizing it in our code.
as the building code did, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And Max, this will only apply as of the resolutions taken, correct? Today. Yeah, so even current construction right now, even though it's new, it wouldn't have to comply with this, technically, correct? If they already have done that part, I guess. Yes. There's no other questions. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 546.
Okay, is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, it's that ordinance, roll call, thank you.
Council President Souter,
Aye.
Councilperson Day.
Aye.
Councilperson Zelt,
Aye.
Councilperson Mataway,
Aye.
Councilperson Zubaka.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item we need into new business. We have a resolution subdivision on 12 Arcadis Avenue. We'll read the resolution. A resolution approving the subdivision for 12 Arcadis Avenue, lots 144 and 146, the Buttonwood, parcel number 21-001-007. Whereas Feathers Group LLC has applied to the Council of Newcastle for subdivision approval for property known as tax parcel 21-001-00-007 within the city limits. Whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the application under the terms of the subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance and has determined that the application is in conformity with the same, and has therefore recommended to City Council that the subdivision be approved. And whereas the council determines that the application meets the requirements necessary for the approval of this subdivision as shown on the attached Exhibit A. Now therefore let it be resolved that the application of Feathers Group LLC for subdivision approval for 12 Arbutus Avenue, lots 144 and 146, the Buttonwood parcel number 21-001.00-007 within the city limits as shown hereby on a plat prepared by Civil Engineering Associates LLC dated February 27th, 2024, last updated March 12th, 2024, and attached hereto as in the office as Exhibit A, reflecting such subdivision is approved, and such plat shall be entitled to be recorded in the office of Newcastle County Recorder of Deeds. The subdivider shall record the subject subdivision within 45 days of the date of this resolution, and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Failure to record the subdivision within the aforementioned time frame shall render this resolution null and void. Is there any discussion of this? Ms. Walden, do you have any comments about it?
I know, it's the by right subdivision, Mr. Rogers, and to confirm. I just have a question about, what was discussed at the planning commission, if you don't mind just summarizing this.
As Mr. Walton stated, it's a by right subdivision. There was some discussion about the provision of utilities. My office wrote a review letter for the planning commission for their consideration, approved with conditions. Those conditions were met via various bits of information being submitted after the meeting. I reviewed that information and found that the subdivision before you is in compliance with the subdivision regulations and the conditions of the planning commission. It's a 3-lot subdivision in the R2 zone, and the developer is planning on building duplexes on each of the new lots. Excuse us.
Excuse me,
sir.
Could you take your conversations
Excuse me, sir.
could you take your conversations to the lobby? Thank you.
They're proposing 3 lots, and the owner has stated that they want to build duplexes, which are permitted uses in the R2 zone. And a duplex is 2 units on 1 lot.
And do you know if it's gonna be rental or is it gonna be, selling it?
It's gotta be rental.
Yeah, they're 3.
Wondering.
They'll most likely be rented. Mr. Davis.
Because there's 2 units in 1 lot. This isn't a condo subdivision. You have 2 units in 1 lot, like, I mean, you have to. You have to buy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion, please? Are we ready to vote? Do I hear a motion to approve resolution 2024-13?
Motion approved.
A second? All in favor? Yeah. Okay. Next item of business is a resolution to resolution 2024-14, a resolution to designate 3 vehicles owned by the city as surplus property and authorizing disposal of said surplus property. Whereas the city of Newcastle owns a 2015 Chevy Tahoe, a 2014 Dodge Charger, and a 2018 Dodge Charger for which it no longer has a need. And whereas the city council has determined that these vehicles represent surplus assets and should be liquidated and disposed of, now therefore it is hereby resolved that the city does hereby approve the sale and disposition of the following vehicles: 2015 Chevy Tahoe, 2014 Dodge Charger, and 2018 Dodge Charger. The vehicle ID numbers are specified, but I don't know that I have to read those numbers now. Be it further resolved that the city administrator shall have the authority to market and sell these vehicles at public or private sale and upon such terms as conditions as the city administrator shall deem appropriate in her sole discretion. I will say that these are former police vehicles. The police equipment has been removed from them. Because we have a new lease agreement for most city vehicles to Enterprise, these vehicles will simply be returned to them and get some credit, I guess, towards future vehicle leases. So there's not a sale in the normal sense of the word. Is there any question or comment or discussion about this resolution?
Motion to pass resolution 2024-14.
A second? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Robert. The next item is when William Brickell, the former city administrator, resigned last year, he arranged him to be under contract with us for 6 months to provide advice, basically to be a consultant. Because he had been with us for 10 years, he had extensive institutional knowledge, and we had a number of new members of staff, and he's been very helpful during that 6 months. The contract expires at the end of, or no, expires the 14th or 15th of this month, I think, the current contract. And this is the time of year when we have to make our request to the state legislature for funds through the bond bill. And Mr. Bartel has extensive experience doing this. We have no one else on staff at the moment who has ever done this before. New to this 10 people, and our finance coordinator just began working with us last June, so she's never been through it either. So what I'm proposing tonight is that we renew Mr. Bartel's contract for a period of 1 month to extend the contract, I should say, rather than for a period of 1 month to have the advice, have the advantage of his expertise in submitting the bond bill request and other things as well, perhaps help in preparing the budget, because again, he has extensive experience with that. We have spoken to Mr. Bartel, he's willing to do this. So that's the point of discussion tonight. Any questions or comments from the council?
I've got one question. When we were initially drafting this contract, to pay monthly regardless of how many hours was, I know there was talk about, I think, something like that, but, I know this is not for the last month, I think Mr. Bartel was not in the country. Like, is it what, can we just move that? into
Well,
this month? I guess.
I contacted him. He told us he would be available while he was away, and he was. I contacted him via email, and I think other staff members.
He was still working.
He was still working.
Okay.
He was away, but given modern technology, it's possible for people to work without being here in town. So yes, to answer your first question, it was the contract is a flat monthly fee for up to 10 hours a week. So he doesn't have to submit an itemized invoice, it's not a per hour contract, it's a per month contract. And we are proposing to renew it and to extend it for 1 month on the same terms.
The 1 month extension will get us through submission.
Yes,
To the,
because the deadline for the bond bill is May 15th, and we really should do it before that. It's not good to wait till the last minute on those things. So, yes, that was the whole idea of making it a 1 month extension. Anything else?
Motion to approve it, not a contract.
I just wanted to make a comment too. I want to be clear, and I've said this before. I do think council needs to have some input on the bond bill submission.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've had that in the past.
So, if
Whether it's just a
anyone,
review, suggestions.
if anyone has any, things that they would like to be added to this request, or at least considered for it, just send them to Ms. Pentillo, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, councilperson, I totally agree, Mr. Day, councilperson Madaway and myself have, emailed, council president Souter about, playground being
And
added.
I
to
passed
bond bill.
that.
But yeah, it has been something that I've been thinking about too, in the sense that, as priorities for the city are identified, it'd just be nice to review them before we, and early on in the process.
Well, we're not gonna have several months at this point.
Talking forward.
If I may make a comment. But, I definitely want to review how we do our budget process and bond bill and other requests as part of that conversation. And once I learn more about, the priorities, include those priorities, these budgetary items.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Okay, any further comment or discussion?
No comment.
Okay, we have a motion. Second? Well, you can't.
I'm sorry.
All right, so I believe Mr. Zabak made the motion, Mr. Day seconded.
Right.
Right? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. The fourth item of new business is a discussion of our policy for handling comments and questions submitted via email prior to council meeting. When meetings are posted, the posting says that if one has a comment but is not able to make the meeting, they may send an email up to 3:00 the afternoon of the meeting. So, and today that would have been as of 3:00 this afternoon. And when we receive those, they are passed on to council members. In the past, we've had a past practice, I could say, of reading those out loud at the meetings. But that's becoming burdensome in many ways. And so the point of tonight's discussion is to not read them out loud. Now, that does not mean they won't become part of the record. Each council member would get a copy of the email and it would be attached to the minutes of the meeting as an attachment, so that it would become part of the record of the meeting. The only change is to not read it out loud. And I was wondering, well, the purpose of tonight's discussion is to see what you all think about that idea and how we should proceed going forward. The announcement that goes with the posting of the agenda does not say that the emails will be read out loud, but we have had a practice of doing so.
And this wasn't something that was in our code, like, you know, mentioned anywhere.
No, it's just, it's to make it possible for people to make comments. And it's not that we're going to ignore those comments. They will be, a copy of the email will be given to each council member. Now, it's probably not going to make it into the packet because if they don't come in until 2:30 on the afternoon of the meeting, but at a minimum, you'd find them at your place when you came to the meeting. And then a copy will be attached to the minutes. So they do become part of the record.
Is there a way to move that time frame up?
It makes sense, sorry.
Oh, to make it earlier?
Make it earlier to get it into the package?
Well, we'd have to back it up to like Friday, because that's when, or Monday. That's when people
worried about it myself, honestly, because public comment you get during the meeting. So, you know, like, we don't have to react to it at the meeting. We can always react to those that we can, you know, if possible. That's kind of what we have been doing lately, but I feel like public comments is something that we receive right now that we don't, some we may be able to answer, some we may not. So I don't see it personally as too big of an issue, even if we receive it right, you know, on our table here, but.
It is unfortunate that we're at this position now. And we're at this position because we've allowed speakers to come up and accuse the trust of issues and accuse personal, and with personal attacks on people. So no matter what we do here with the emails, it's not going to stop getting up at the podium apparently and saying whatever they want, whether it was true or not. We all have heard all this rhetoric about the trust. I don't know what the trust has done and what they haven't done, but I do know the Department of Justice looked into it and nothing came out of it. I don't know why it has to be rehashed here. I understand there might be some issues with us restricting it, but I mean, it sounds like we're trying to restrict the emails, but you can still come up here and say anything you want, which is kind of disheartening. But I will also say for the person that's out there that wants to submit an email that's legitimate city business, it's kind of taking their voice away. So I'm not really in favor of taking their voice away on legitimate city business. It's all this other rhetoric that you know, it just, the pot just keeps stirring.
You know, my understanding is that we can't pick and choose which ones we would read and which ones we wouldn't read. And we can't restrict, if we were going to restrict comments to only matters under the jurisdiction of the council, that would mean that we couldn't have reports from the fire company. We couldn't have reports like the one we had a month before last from the superintendent of the school district, because those are not matters under the jurisdiction of the city council. So it's a matter of listening to some things we may find disagreeable at times in order to be able to hear other public information from various groups and organizations in town that are very important to the community that is part of. Is that correct, Mr. Walton?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Walton, could you give us a brief summary of what other cities do as it relates to email communications sent to the council? I have never seen anybody else read the communication. And how is it dealt with? Sorry, do you mind? Yeah, it's a written communication. If they send in a letter, it's distributed to all members of council. Ahead of time, so if you have a public comment on a zoning matter or whatever, written communication comes in as part of the record, just the council person said it's attached to the minutes or whatever the official record is of that meeting. That's the normal practice. You guys don't do it that way since I've been here. You guys actually read you read whatever anybody says and you put it into the record that way. The idea is that the comment get to council. The other idea is that, you don't want to restrict anyone from submitting whatever they want, right? That's not the purpose, but if you wanted to speak, you'd have to come to council. That's the common practice. So a strange question here, and I don't know if this was discussed elsewhere, there is a limit to 3 minutes right now to what you can say in the council. Is there a limit what you can write as well? So like somebody can write 50 pages and submit it, right? And we don't necessarily want to add 50 pages to our, meeting minutes. We're still limiting even emails, but technically, right? To a certain amount of, do we need to talk about character limit, word limit? Regardless of whether they're city, comments to Mr. Day's point, or something personal. So you could add a character limit if you so chose to do so. Generally, what we've done in the past is you read until 3 minutes. There hasn't been a limit on the number of words or whatever. You read until 3 minutes are up and then you stop. What we've done in the past. It just doesn't seem fair to people talking for 3 minutes if somebody can just email and find a loophole and then, write a whole essay about something. You just thinking about it. There's nothing illegal about reading it into the record. There's nothing illegal about not reading it into the record and just attaching it in the minutes. There's nothing illegal about, putting a 2,000 word limit or whatever it is on whatever communication. I have no idea how many words would fit into. Yeah, it'll be something. This is really a council preference. I understand. I just wanted to see if there was a conversation in other jurisdictions about length of the emails. I am not aware of any other jurisdiction that has a length of email. I am very aware that most jurisdictions have a 3-minute public comment period, just like you. Thank you.
I have a question when you were speaking about, it has to be under city's jurisdiction, okay? And that we could not include the fire company or, the presentation made by, the school superintendent. But the fire company receives funding from us.
Well,
So isn't that under our jurisdiction?
if they were speaking to, my take on it is if they were speaking to us about that funding request, yes. Or if they were making a grant request that the city had to sign up, that the council had to approve, similar to what we did with MSC. That would be under the council jurisdiction and then it would be appropriate, but just give a report, as we heard tonight, about their activities. My understanding is that we say we will only take comments on matters of jurisdiction of council, those kinds of things do not. We have to rule out anything that's not under the jurisdiction. Now, is that an accurate answer?
It is. So I'm going to be very brief because I've written at length on this in an attorney-client privilege memo. Can't engage in viewpoint discrimination. I'm very safe to say that. So if you limit public comment, time, place, and manner, you have to put very narrow bounds on it, and you have to stick to it. You can't let some people talk and not others. Where that line is drawn is very difficult to draw. I've provided confidentially a number of cases drawing of that line. So yes, the answer is it's a limited public forum. You can't put restrictions on it. If you put restrictions on it, I will enforce those restrictions very strictly. And I'm not sure that the council's going to like it.
Well, I guess my suggestion at this point is we try making this change that we no longer read them out loud. They will be made part of the record by being attached to the minutes, and each council member will be given a copy. And we won't deal with the length unless we start having a problem with people submitting 50 pages or whatever.
I'm with Joe on this, unfortunately, that we shouldn't be here, discussing, this matter to begin with, because the hope is that somebody submitting an email, not being able to attend for whatever reason, right? And that we would discuss it potentially, if, because otherwise, I think it almost gets lost if we don't. Sorry, just to finish the thought, like, I don't think anybody would go through the minutes, go into public comments and identifying what Mrs. Zabaka has, emailed the council. Just my opinion. So
Let me have,
that, to me, is lost there. Regardless of the matter.
So the email provided to council prior to the meeting, or they're at your place, it's here. You don't get that many, but you do get some, and they're usually easily read before the meeting by your individual self, okay, not at the meeting. So if you want to pull something out of that email or address something in that email verbally to everyone, you're still able to do so.
that was gonna be my, if I came in and found an email from John Smith about such and such an issue that I thought should be brought out, could I discuss it during council?
To discuss it during council meeting, if it was a matter that was on the agenda for that night, or just like we don't comment on everybody who makes a public comment, right? We don't say that to discuss it. But if it's a matter that's brought up that you would want further discussion on, get added to the agenda for the next time.
For future.
So discussion, you certainly discuss if the matter was on the agenda. I'm gonna pick something random that already passed. The selling of surplus property. And I don't think you should sell surplus property. Certainly if the person makes a good point, you could add that in at the time of the discussion. But if it was, I'm gonna pick something completely out of the world, right? That we want to purchase the Goodwill Fire Company building. That's something you should do, something we wouldn't do. But if that was it, you would have to, if you wanted to further discuss that, you would have to put it on the agenda and discuss it in the future meeting.
Which is basically. I'm sorry, Mr. Gross, public comments are over.
Or would that be in line with what you were saying?
We're not restricting what people can say. We're simply discussing whether or not we should not read emails aloud at the meeting, but rather give copies to each member of council and make them part of the record as attachment.
If it falls within your limits.
Point of order.
Yeah.
So,
And that is in line with what you said earlier about, we're either reading all of them or not reading all of them, but we can still opt in the one that we think is relevant for either.
If you want
current
to further
discussion
discuss it or a matter on the agenda, that would be fine.
and if we thought it was important for future, it would have to go on to a future agenda. But it could not be discussed at that meeting when the email came in.
Think of it just like somebody comes in for public comment here and they say, I want you to do blank, right? And we can't really discuss it because it's not on the agenda, but we put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Same would hold true for a written comment.
As much as I do not like having to hear these personal attacks and everything, I still have an issue with us limiting access. And I want the council, in my opinion, we should be transparent and do everything out in the open and not bury these emails behind our minutes. And I've been very clear, I do not like what's going on, but I also don't want to, close the ranks and make it harder for people to contact us or for us to be transparent.
Don't see how it would make it more difficult for them to contact us, because they can still send either individually or to the city office. I see what you mean about transparency, because if they're just attached to the minutes, you're right, not many people are going to see them.
It's not really public, I mean, I guess it is public comments, but if you're going to bury them behind the minutes, I mean, the whole point is for them to be vocalized here.
Well,
You can have a motion and a vote. We could have no motion and move on, either way.
so I guess we could continue on as we have been, then it becomes a further. Can raise this issue again at a future meeting. That be reasonable?
The only difference in past, I think when you read the other day, we didn't put. So maybe reading it.
That's pretty, well, in this particular email, I knew it was not gonna be finished, because the building like to see a quarter of the page. But there have been previous times when I have lines and school start the time to start. So the 3 minutes, that applies to an email that's to be written, just as it does to the person standing at the meeting and speaking.
I guess this is a question for Mr. Walton. I'm saying the same thing as Joe. I'm really conflicted about this. If we were to remain the same, with the same practice that we have right now. And we get 2 emails, one about purchasing the fire, but I'm just gonna use the same examples you just made, right? One that doesn't exist, purchasing this building, and one that we just passed about vehicles being sold, right? Same way that we can tell the person giving a public comment that what they're saying is not part of the city business or agenda. Can that same be applied as we are, as council president is trying to read those emails and then read partial part that is applicable and not, and.
We're not, no. We're either gonna have it read, the front, or we're gonna attach it.
But it doesn't seem consistent with the verbal comment, because verbal comments, we can tell a person that they are not talking about something that.
We're gonna have to have an offline privilege conversation with that.
My understanding is we cannot,
Oh, I thought.
with very few exceptions, we cannot stop someone from speaking on a particular topic. We can only limit them to 3 minutes.
Within the 3 minutes, or if you so choose to strictly enforce.
Yeah, if we want to be really strict about it, then it has to be something that's under the jurisdiction of council, which would eliminate perhaps a bunch of other useful information from members of the community. All right, I'm sensing that we're going to just keep doing what we've been doing, and we'll see how it goes, and we may need to revisit this in the future. Is that the consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the consent for.
The next item is a resolution of approving a subdivision on resolution 2024-15, a resolution approving the subdivision for 600 and 610 Tremont Street and 601 to 611 Dean Place. Whereas Selden Scranton Deemer II has applied to the Council of Newcastle for subdivision approval for properties known as tax parcels number 21-015.00-035 and 21-015.00-036 within the city limits. And whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the application under the terms of the subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance and has determined that the application is in conformity with the same and has therefore recommended to City Council that the subdivision be approved. And whereas the council determines the application meets the requirements necessary for the approval of this subdivision as shown on the attached Exhibit A. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Selden Scranton Deemer II for subdivision approval for 600 and 610 Tremont Street and 601 to 611 Deemer Place, parcel numbers 21-015.00-035 and 21-015.00-036 within the city limits, as shown hereby on a plat prepared by the Pelsa Company dated January 17th, 2022, last updated March 20th, 2024, and attached hereto as Exhibit A, reflecting such subdivision is approved, and such plat shall be entitled to be recorded in the office of the Newcastle County Recorder of Deeds. The subdivider shall record the subject subdivision within 45 days of the date of this resolution and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Failure to record the subdivision within the aforementioned time frame shall render this resolution null and void. I walked over there this afternoon to take a look, because I actually used to live in one of the, at 608 Tremont Street. Familiar with it. It's basically two rows of houses that are back to back, their backyards back up to each other. And actually, the notice that's still posted from when it appeared before the planning commission is very clear that the property line's just gonna go, they're gonna divide each house and make it a separate piece of property. And they're outbuildings, most of them have like a little storage shed behind the house. None of those are gonna have to be moved or be impacted. It's simply a matter of, instead of two large plots, it's gonna be divided into individual plots for each residence. And that's the sole purpose of this. Is that correct, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, this is a subdivision that's creating lots around existing dwellings. There's no new improvements being proposed. Two of the lots are being proposed around two semi-detached units where the lot line will coexist with a common wall. Again, there's no new improvements being proposed. This was also before the Board of Adjustment, before it came to the Planning Commission, given the nature of the area. And the Board of Adjustment granted 11 variances to allow the subdivision to proceed to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission reviewed it, approved it with conditions, some minor conditions, and we've assured that those conditions have been met.
Any further questions or discussion?
I just don't see this other parcel on here on this provided map that, can somebody pointing to 121 dash 15 dash find 036, but not 3. I'm just curious where it is. Other than that, no question. And it's tiny, so I'm sure I'm missing something, but
I believe one of the parcels referenced is the lot that's being divided into the two semi-detached lots. And the other existing parcel is the parcel associated with the new single-family detached lots.
okay, so 035, if I'm understanding this right, would be the one created by the subdivision 036 that existed. Because I'm seeing it as 036. Just confirm.
I don't know which parcel is which, but there are two existing parcels here, and those two existing parcels are being subdivided into 7 lots total. So those parcel numbers will most likely go away when the subdivision occurs, and there will be new parcel numbers assigned. So those are existing parcels.
No, I understand, but then I'm just wondering where the 035 is on the map, because I can see some other ones, 504, 369, 503, but 504, like, but 368, not 035.
Are you familiar? Did you drive over there and take a look at these areas?
I know where it is, but,
Yeah.
you know, I'm
It's
just curious
making
about where the
a
park.
set of houses so we can tell them, because everyone's lost right now. So all it is dividing the residence.
I'm not looking where, I'm just wondering where the map, that's all.
So 035 currently is 602, 604, 606. I'm sorry, 600, 02, 04, 06, or 608 Tremont Street. That's currently the 035 part. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Any further
Thank you.
questions? Or discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
So we.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Approved unanimously. Okay, the next item is business number 6. No. No, it's number 4. It's number 6 on the agenda. Okay, resolution 2024-16. A resolution approving a lot line adjustment plan prepared for David Scott and Rebecca Bechtel, 19 and 20 Spring. Whereas David Scott and Rebecca Bechtel have applied to the Council of Newcastle for a lot line adjustment plan of property shown as tax parcel 21-015.00-186 and 21-015.00-187 within the city limits. And whereas the building official has reviewed the applications under the terms of the subdivision regulations and zoning ordinances and has determined that the application is in conformity with the same, and has therefore recommended to City Council that the lot line adjustment plan be approved as a re-subdivision as defined by the subdivision regulations. And whereas the council determines that the application meets the requirements necessary for the approval of this re-subdivision as shown on the attached Exhibit A. And now therefore be it resolved that the application of David Scott and Rebecca Bechtel for the approval of a lot line adjustment plan, 19 and 23 The Strand, parcels 21-015.00-186 and 21-015.00-187 within the city limits as shown hereby on a plat prepared by the Kelsa Company dated February 29th, 2024, and attached hereto as Exhibit A, reflecting such lot line adjustment, is approved, and such plat shall be entitled to be recorded in the office of the Newcastle County Recorder of Deeds. The subdivider shall record the subject plan within 45 days of this resolution and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Failure to record the subject plan within the aforementioned time frame shall render this resolution null and void. I walked over here also. There are 3 lots between Alexander Alley and Packet Alley on the Strand. There are only 2 houses there because lot number 19 is undeveloped and it's owned by the same, it's part of the parcel on which the house that has the number 21 is located. And then next to that is house with the address number 23. So it's a little confusing because it's 2 plots, but 3 lots, but only 2 of them had houses. Mr. Rogers, would you like to?
Yeah, this is a subdivision that, there's a purpose of plan, note at the top of the subdivision, that we had the surveyor put on there, which is a requirement of the subdivision regs. And this is simply a subdivision plan that eliminates a lot line, and adds one existing parcel to another existing parcel. Such a subdivision is called a re-subdivision per the subdivision regulations. There's no new development potential being created as a result of this re-subdivision plan / lot line adjustment. These type of subdivisions don't have to be reviewed by the planning commission. They're administratively approved, which is very typical practice for subdivision regulations throughout the state.
And my understanding is at this point in time, the same couple owns both plots, right, both parcels, is that correct?
Based on the information on the plan, yes. I mean, ultimately, the owners have to sign the plan.
Right.
So
But then it's changed.
if there is, they'll have to sign the plan. We don't really get into who owns who owns what, just that the surveyor is certifying what's shown on the plan, and the owners are certifying that they are the owners of the parcels.
In a case like this, we'll ask, well, do the neighbors agree with this change? Well, in this case, it's the same. Oh. Yes.
Yeah, they yeah, you could not add on someone else's land to your land without that person's approval by virtue of signing the plan.
Is there a motion to approve? Second. In favor? Aye. Okay. And then the last. No, that's two, but they're related. Okay, this one is a discussion. This is what.
I'm prepared.
Okay.
So this is back on the 18th day of November 2003, there was a subdivision on the Gamma property where they created a new parcel. And for whatever reason, which I don't know why, there was a cross, like a generalized cross access easement that was put in place to get from one part to the other for utilities. That also stated on there, this general one, that that amendment had to be approved by the council of Newcastle. So the developers of the battery have asked council to amend that and remove the cross access easement. The cross access easement, once the battery is done, has no utility. It would be my recommendation that you approve it because it doesn't mean anything. It's just on, there's no reason for it, but so that's kind of where we stand on that. So that would be that's what they prepared to put before you for the vote. I think Mr. Rogers will look at it. Have you looked at the cross access?
I'm not.
Okay. All right.
I know the history of it. I don't.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what it is. And
But I thought part of this involved access to the sewer pumping station.
next agenda item.
Oh, okay.
This first agenda item is just to eliminate, hopefully, is to say, we don't care about this declaration of cross access and utility easement, which is general, which is never been used.
So we're basically eliminating something that was put in years ago for a reason we don't know. It's never been used, and changing it now really doesn't make any difference.
It's access to a couple of parcels that are going to be eliminated anyway.
Okay, so, sorry, guys, I know it's been here for a while now. Where the apartments are supposed to be built is the current access.
This has nothing to do with access.
I'm trying to understand this easement, I guess. But yeah, so.
It's here. That's it.
Say it again.
It's within the process.
Okay, all set. Any further questions or discussion? Do I have a motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Aye. Now, the second.
Now, the second one is a little more complicated. So let me try to get, as property owners, so if I misstate something, you can tell me I misstated. There was formerly a proposal which I provided to, members of council where the proposal was that the city would take ownership of what I'm gonna call the pump station parcel. And if you look at the back of the item in the agenda, it's that big square box. And the city had prepared an agreement where that would be donated to the city, but also put in a number of contingencies upon our taking it for free, which we included, but are not limited to environmental studies being done on the parcel. There had to be access, they had to pay for the entrance that goes in, and we would have a rather lengthy due diligence period. Subsequent to that, the owners of the parcel said, we would rather propose to take an easement across the city's property, which is if you look on the map, it's parcel 1C. So an access easement, and the access easement is needed because ultimately, once the battery is built, which is the parcel 1A, there is no way for the county to access the pump station because it's going to be raised up where the battery is. So their proposal that they bring to the council is that they would build a curb cut, essentially, so you could have the access, because that's gonna need to be done. B, for the grant of the city's easement across to the pump station parcel, and ultimately provide some landscaping. The proposal is outlined in the cross-access maintenance easement agreement that was prepared by the developer's council. It had in there all that I had asked for, but at the end of the day, that's council's decision. I'm sure whether or not you want to grant the access easement. But what we had previously discussed regarding taking ownership of the parcel, that was taken off the table, and they tried to do the other things that council had asked. And I'll let you guys talk if I said anything incorrectly.
Why do we own this little piece in the first place?
I asked that exact same question, and I believe, but I didn't go back and research all the things. I believe and was told that that's where the pump station used to be, and then somewhere along the line it got moved. So that's why we own that little tiny parcel. We, the city of Newcastle.
So my only question is impact on our public works team, since currently the access to this is being, counties using the pathway next to the liquor store to access, they're not using the city's location because there's already an access to it, so that's gonna be raised. I understand that part. We don't use this lot to my knowledge, so somebody can correct me here. Now, the maintenance of this, as we look into, snow season, if we're looking at, any damages there that, county can't access. I just wanna understand how does that now, play with our, public work teams? Now, were they part of this conversation as well, to know that this is being added, I'm not, I guess.
Yeah, so Jackson owns the property where the pump station is. County wants, one of the things that's in here.
I'm talking about city-owned, area that's gonna be used as an easement that we would have to now maintain, that we've already done maintain.
So number 4A, maintenance of easements, right? I'm just gonna check it myself for something with sole responsibility to guarantee. Jackson LLC is the grantee under this, right?
So they're the maintenance, so they're taking maintenance of the easement.
They're taking maintenance of the easement.
Okay, just. And this could be already taken care of by public works. I have no idea, because there's nothing there that we we do as a city, I think, so.
So,
I just don't wanna.
so just so I can read it, so this is.
Thank you.
All reasonable costs and expenses necessary for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of the driveway and appurtenant, I think that's how I say that, services, including but not limited to snow plowing and periodic sealing collectively the maintenance, that be the sole responsibility for it.
And it further said that there will install a landscape screen.
That was the other part of their offer, to install the landscape screen to keep the, I guess, some had complained about the unsightliness of the pump station.
What was the?
They're going to also install a landscape screen.
No, what was the part, what was the comment? I missed that.
That the pump station is unsightly.
So, Max, for clarity, it's, a county pump station,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So this can be, resolved, by parties outside of this room, by the county, right?
That would be the helping city complaint.
Yeah, they're asking for, just to be, they're asking for access to the pump station parcel across the city's property.
But that pump station parcel is still their parcel.
Yeah.
Still their own.
They're just looking for a driveway.
To get to the pump station in order to conduct the maintenance, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, Jackson LLC wouldn't be the ones going over, it would be the county guys. who go sit and just go to the pump station.
But Jackson LLC is gonna maintain that access.
Yes, that's the way it's written, yes. So unless property owner's there, unless I missed something.
No, you didn't read all the facts. The landscape screening was actually always supposed to be the county's responsibility. They haven't done it. So we're gonna step in and do it as a part of this agreement. Thank you very much for your consideration.
All right, is there a motion that we approve this? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Opposed? Right, so moved. I think is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor?